Have you ever thought about it? What you'd do if you had to choose between something you believe in with your whole heart and, well, your own survival? It's a tough question, right? And today, we're going to dive into a story that gives one of the most incredible answers you'll ever hear. Just try to picture it. You're standing at the edge of a huge pit filled with burning, glowing embers, and you know that just one step forward is the end. These are the words of a man right there, on that edge, a promise he made in the face of certain death. So that's the big question, isn't it? What on earth could be worth more than your own life? What kind of belief could make someone so certain, so unshakable? Well, to find that answer, our story actually begins somewhere else entirely, in the home of a famous millionaire. Let's talk about a man named Anathapindika. His story is the first big piece of this puzzle. Now, he was known for being incredibly wealthy, sure, but what really made him a legend was his unbelievable generosity and his deep, unwavering faith.
Get a load of this number, 540 million. That's how much of his fortune Anathapindika donated to support the Buddha and the community of monks. His home was basically a non-stop hub of support for hundreds of people. His giving was truly the stuff of legends.
But then, things took a turn. Disaster struck. A huge chunk of his wealth vanished, tied up in loans that were never repaid. Another massive fortune he'd buried by a river was just washed away by a flood. He became poor. But here's the amazing part. His giving didn't stop for a second. The fancy meals turned into simple rice water, but his commitment, his heart, that stayed exactly the same.
Now here's where it gets interesting. Living in the fourth gate of Anathapindika's mansion was a deity, a kind of spirit. And this spirit was, well, pretty annoyed. It was tired of all the monks coming and going, and it blamed Anathapindika's over-the-top charity for him losing all his money. So it decided it was time to step in.
So one night, the deity appears and basically gives him an ultimatum. It says, "You've thrown your money away. Stop this giving, cut off the Buddha and his followers, and start focusing on yourself before you lose everything." This was a direct challenge to everything Anathapindika stood for.
Anathapindika's response? It was instant, no hesitation, nothing. He just looked at the deity and said his faith was like a mountain, completely unshakable. He called the deity's words wicked and unworthy and banished it from his home right then and there. Even flat broke, his principles were not up for negotiation. Okay, so the deity gets kicked out. Now it's homeless, disgraced, and it has this sinking realization that it made a huge mistake. The tables have totally turned, and now this powerful spirit has to figure out how to get back in Anathapindika's good graces. The deity starts looking for help, and this just shows you how badly it messed up. First, it goes to the city guardian, who says, "Nope, can't help you." Then it goes to the four great kings of the heavens. They refuse too. Finally, it makes its way to Sakka, the king of the gods, who totally gets how serious this is. Sakka offers a path to fix things, but it's not going to be easy. Sakka lays out this epic four-part quest for the deity. To be forgiven, it has to use its powers to get back every single coin of Anathapindika's lost 540 million. We're talking about tracking down the unpaid debts, recovering the treasure from the bottom of the river, and even finding brand new treasure to make him whole again. And you know what? The deity did it. It completed every task, restored the millionaire's fortune, filled his storehouses until they were overflowing, and then went back to Anathapindika, bowed down, and just begged for forgiveness. Anathapindika could have just accepted the apology and moved on. But he knew this was a teaching moment. So the very next morning, he takes this now very repentant deity to see the Buddha, to hear a lesson that would stick. And the Buddha's teaching was profound. He explained that our actions are like seeds. For while a person might not see anything wrong with a bad action, the seed hasn't sprouted yet. But when it finally ripens and you get that bitter fruit, like the deity being thrown out of its home, that's when you finally truly understand your mistake. After this lesson, the Buddha turned to Anathapindika and praised him. He said his faith was truly impressive. But then he added something that changes everything. He said, as incredible as that was, it wasn't quite as astonishing as something he himself had done in a past life. And boom, just like that, our story comes full circle. So, we are back at that pit of fire, and we now learn that the hero of this story is the Bodhisattva, the person who would one day be reborn as the Buddha. And the one who created that pit? A much, much more powerful enemy. Meet Mara. Think of Mara as the ultimate force of temptation and negativity. His goal was simple and brutal: stop the bodhisattva from making an offering of food to a holy person. And his method? Create a terrifying, massive pit of fire right in his path.
So the bodhisattva saw the holy man on the other side. He saw the offering in his own hands, and he saw the fiery pit that Mara had put between them. He knew exactly what was happening, and without a single moment of doubt, he just started walking, straight into the flames.
And in that moment, as he took that impossible step forward, fueled only by his conviction, something incredible happened. A miracle. Right out of the center of that fire, a huge lotus flower just bloomed into existence, rising up to catch his feet. He stood there, perfectly safe on its petals, high above the flames, and calmly made his offering. His absolute conviction had literally turned the fire into a flower. Mara was completely and utterly defeated.
Wow. So we have these two amazing stories, right? One of a man tested by losing everything he had, and another tested by a pit of fire. So what can we really learn from them about having an unshakable mind?
When you look at them side by side like this, it's pretty clear. Both men faced these huge tests designed to break them. For one, it was financial ruin. For the other, it was certain death. And in both cases, their unshakable belief didn't just help them survive, it led to this incredible, victorious outcome.
So what's the big takeaway for us? I think these stories show us that true generosity has nothing to do with how much money you have. It's all about your heart. They remind us that our actions, good or bad, will always come back around. But maybe the biggest lesson is about the power of our own minds. A deep conviction in doing what's right can literally become its own protection, its own power. It tells us that an unshakable mind is maybe one of the strongest things there is.
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And I'd like to leave you with a simple wish inspired by these incredible stories. May you all be happy.